not like us. They 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 not like us.
Yo, what's going on? And welcome to Eclipse Theory Games, podcast where we bring you the latest in gaming news, indie reviews, and everything else under the sun. My name is Kendall, and I'm here with my co-host
Tony, aka the Human Victory Cigar.
Okay, I feel it. I got you. We're gonna try to get a very special song playing on the intro to this. I forgot about that part. So it's gonna feel very appropriate. It's gonna yeah. I mean, we've talked.
That's the only reason I used that nickname. It was for that.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about what's happening. I think the world has talked to death about that at this point. But it's
so much more.
There's still so much to say, but it's been an interesting last few weeks. We've had a few themed episodes recently. Like, we were going to do another console retrospective, which is a series that we've been doing. We look back at older consoles and kind of take you through how we thought about them, what we felt about them, rank them, I guess you could say, and grade them. We're going to rank them all after we get all of them graded, or enough of them graded to have a full tier list. But we're going to hold off on that because my man James is once again not here. So instead, I feel like we've been playing enough interesting new stuff that it's worth kind of stopping and talk about that, because I don't know if y'all realized, but there's a little bit of an indie boom going on. Like, it just kind of happened out of nowhere where a bunch of games dropped at once. I haven't been playing them all, but I know we both got some stuff we've been wanting to talk about. So to get started, man, I've been waiting to hear you expound on your thoughts on Tales of Kenzera Zao. Game dropped on the 9th, I believe. Or no, it dropped a little while before that. Right?
It dropped April 29th, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so right before the end of the month. But yeah, I mean, I know you finished it. How you feeling?
Dog, I platinumed that shit.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
Yeah, I platinumed that shit. That's the first plat I got in years. Like, legitimately first plat I got in years. And I mean, I've been trying to plat Spider-Man 2 and just haven't really locked in like I should.
That was a fun platinum though. You should.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna get to it. But backlogs being backlogs and shit like that. But I had to put all that shit aside for this. We've talked about it before. Just Abu Bakr Salim's presentation of the game when he first revealed it kind of locked us both in on it for different reasons, and it's every bit as good as I expected it to be. There's some minor hiccups, like I told you about. Like, once you clear the enemies out of the area, they kind of don't respawn, or if they do, it's like 2, and it's at really weird intervals. Like, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So little stuff like that, but it don't hurt. Like, the actual game itself, I mean, the combat system is fluid. It's on the fly, switching between masks. You can I've gone from, because the moon mask lets you shoot ranged attacks, sun mask lets you do melee shit. I've gone from one to the other, just back and forth, hopping between motherfuckers, and it's seamless. It's quick. It's challenging. Like, it ain't no cakewalk. The enemies are varied enough to where they present some challenge, and their placement is kind of varied enough to where it presents a challenge. The story is just, man, it's fucking incredible. It really is.
Yeah, I know that's
like I told you, man. You ain't ready for that, right?
Yeah,
now.
Yeah. It might be a little.
You ain't ready.
Might be a little too personal for me at the moment. So,
dog, Act two will have you throwing your controller through the fucking TV.
I believe it.
It's.
But honestly, that's what you buy it for, right? Like, that was always.
Yeah, no, that was the hook. Was the story,
right? And just in case anybody's not familiar with it, just to run you back, this is the game made by actor. What was the name? I don't want to.
Abu Bakr Salim.
My guy. So he basically made it, and I'm very impressed by that. But he made this game basically in tribute to his father who passed. And he made a Metroidvania. It's his first game. He really learned. He said that he learned how to make games, I think 3 years ago, like within the last 3 years or so.
Very recently.
Yeah, made this incredible experience, and that's dope to hear that it landed for you in the way that because the hype was crazy.
Like, as a Metroidvania is fire. The boss battles are dope. Especially the Act 2 boss battle, which has probably one of the best kind of chase and escape sequences that I've played in a while. Which, I mean, it's kind of key to that genre. If you're going to do it, you got to have. I think you got to have at least one of those in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the gameplay top to bottom is fire.
Let me ask you. When you said that, I know you told me before that the enemies don't like respawn off in areas. Does that speak to like exploration? Like, is there enough stuff to explore and do even beyond that?
Oh yeah. Because there's collectibles. There's
Okay.
the trinkets and stuff like that that you can level up with. Um, there's like challenges, like there's combat challenges, there's platforming challenges that let you collect stuff and expand your bars. There's like they're called echoes, which is basically just lore bits throughout the game where you
That's
got
all you gotta tell me.
again, yeah, just explore and find it. It took me, I want to say a total of probably 14 to 15 hours to platinum it. Like
Wow.
I was done, I'd say at the 12-hour mark. And I think at that point, just naturally playing, I think I had maybe 75 to 80% of
Mm,
like the stuff that you collect throughout the game. And then the rest of it was like cleanup.
word.
Um, the rest of it was cleanup on the echoes. Like I think I had like 10 echoes left to pick up. The one thing the game didn't do, and maybe I missed it, but I'm pretty sure it didn't do, was explain how important the combat challenges actually are because it expands your, we'll call it mana meter. But
Okay.
I can't remember if it actually explained that or not. But I got to like where I knew I was almost at the end, like the end of Act Three. There's four acts. I got like to the end of Act Three and went, yo, why do I still have two bars? Like my health is all the way over here. Like I'm good there. Why do I only got two bars? I'm like, I need more. And then I just randomly
It's-
jumped into one and it was like expanded. I'm like, well, shit.
yeah.
So yeah, then I ran through the I ran through the rest of those real quick and
Interesting.
finished that out. But nah, man,
Okay.
it's a great experience.
Nah, it sounds like a really dope experience. I can hear various reasons why you might recognize it, like they might not have made a game before, but for the most part, I'm
Yeah.
shocked that this is someone's like first game. Like the layering of like the story, just the things that they address in the story. That's a tough story to tell, like from what I'm understanding. Like,
Yo, and it's African as fuck. And I
yeah,
mean
and I
that in the
love
best
that.
possible way. It is African as fuck, like all the way through down to the bones. And it's
Man,
incredible.
that's something that we gotta celebrate and lift up, especially with this being like him being so African, but also having its own lore that they built up, and like you can kind of dig into everything that ties into it. Like they're building up, you know, this game as their own thing. Like he's telling his own story within that field and that
Yeah.
vibe. So I love it.
There's a little
I can
twist.
dig.
There's a little twist at I think the end of Act Three. There's a little twist there that actually makes the story even better
Mm,
than it already
cool.
was, like leading up to it.
Okay, okay. All right, well, definitely I mean, that was already on my radar. I just been spending way too much money on games. So that's definitely high on my list though. I've just gotta steal my reserve for that one. That's going to hit hard, I already know.
Oh yeah. Look,
Yeah.
man, just go somewhere in a corner somewhere, play that joint by yourself, and just hold on to yourself.
Yeah, yeah. But games like that are important, man. Like we gotta address these things. I would love to make a piece of art that speaks to how that felt because I know I can't sit here and tell you know what I mean? But yeah. So that's one that we've been playing recently, and I appreciate the fact that it's pretty much all indie games that we got to talk about because I
Yeah.
have two that I want to touch on. The first is the one that's been dominating all my time. I'm sure y'all seen a lot of people talking about it, but it is Hades 2 early access. I have been playing it. I'm I don't know how many hours in, but I'm like 30, 35 runs in. I fought the final encounter. I won't say anything about anything, you know what I mean? This is gonna be as spoiler free as possible because I know people will want to go into that experience and kind of discover things themselves, as do I. I've seen a little bit, like my cousin will play on his save file, and he's gotten places that I haven't necessarily gotten, and I'm like, damn, I didn't want to know this character was in that game. But overall, man, if you go into it expecting Hades but more, then you're gonna be overwhelmed already in early access. Like I can't tell you like everywhere that it's going in every aspect, but I can tell you that I'm shocked that there's this much in the game. Like it feels like a full Hades sequel already.
I
And
was about
there
to say, I've heard that it sounds like a complete game at this point.
yeah. I'm like, there's a couple character arts that aren't there, and like a model or two or whatever. But that's pretty much all that I've noticed. And like, it might hitch up sometimes. I'm playing it on PC, obviously, so you might get those little moments where it like slows down or something, but it's been an incredible experience. Like the main character is like, just as likable as Zagreus was, Malinois. The cast that's around her, the base that you have, you can tell that they've learned from each of their experiences with Hades. Like they've built upon all the systems that you enjoy, like fishing, collecting materials and like using gifts to build up your relationships with people. The different weapons that they have are so varied. It's actually pretty shocking how far they've gone with like everything, just every little thing that you wouldn't even think would change your experience, but it really does. The primary difference here when it comes to combat, because I want to spend a second talking about that, is most of the combat is based on charging your attacks and like holding down the dash button as opposed to doing like multiple dashes. Basically, you gotta find the rhythm of holding the button down, and that might sound not like it might not sound as intuitive as you might expect, but once you get into the rhythm of like charging up attacks, it works like a charm, and it makes it feel very different from the original Hades. To where I know I can go back to the OG Hades, and it has less, but I know it'll feel different. Like the flow of it is a bit different. Whereas this one, you might, for me, like the double dash in Hades was essential. Take away that double dash, and I'm
Man.
I'm dead in the water. Like that shit is done for. But taking that away, you might think, oh man, I got to dash, and if I want to, I can run if I hold down the sprint button. But you run fast enough that the way that they build the enemies in this game, like the projectiles, you'll have enemies constantly spraying like fire at you, like just coming at you like continuously and moving in one direction. And if you run, you can pretty much outpace it if you just keep it going, you find the right route type of thing. Like the game is built around this. Enemies will be very aggressive and like come at you, and you want to mitigate that. Well, you have a cast that puts down like basically a summoning circle looking thing, and it holds people in place. So if people are like coming at you with an attack that's crazy, or they're about to leap at you, you put that down, you can lock them in place. Or you can hold the button. It'll not only lock them, but it'll do an attack after a certain time. So it's about finding the balance and the rhythm of like finding your attacks and when to stop enemies, when to do your special. All the special attacks are much more, expanded. The runes are crazy. They've got so many systems going. It's great. I could speak about this game for hours already, and it's just dropped in early access. So incredible.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's what, $40?
It's 30 right now, I believe.
30? Okay.
Yeah. So jumping in is definitely worth it. You won't really notice the early access thing. I can't talk too much about what limits on it there are because that involves getting as far as you can. So I don't know how much more spoiler filled I could get, you know what I mean? But there are points where you'll get to and it'll be like, okay, this is about as far as we've got on this yet. But the things that it tells you that are coming, it's a lot of
They actually mentioned what's coming.
some of it. Not they don't go into detail. They tell you what they're adding later. Like they're talking about adding a new weapon, a new area that you can explore. Um, I will give you just a detail of one of the worlds. If y'all want a brief spoiler, if you don't, skip ahead like 2 minutes. I'm just gonna give you a small idea of one of the worlds. There's usually like 4 worlds that you progress toward the end boss. The third world it feels like an open area, like it's huge areas. It's not necessarily a bunch of different rooms. You go into one area that has like 3 different rewards. You know what I mean? And you wander around this huge field, picking up different rewards. And I won't spoil how the system works, why it works that way, or like bosses or anything like that. But just that should give you an idea of how they're taking this in a direction that you might not expect. It might expand this a little bit more than you might be expecting, in ways that you may not even ask for. Like I wasn't looking for that. It's a roguelike, it's room by room by nature.
Right.
They made it work. They made that shit work really well.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into that shit. I don't know when that's going to be. It might be down the road after about 4 or 5 updates. I don't know. But yeah, I'm ready to lock the fuck in on that shit.
The first update is apparently coming at the end of the year. They said that the full release is probably not coming within this year, but it'll be here soon. It sounds like they're pretty close, and it feels like
they got a 30-hour game that feels like a full game, and the shit's not even going to drop this year.
Literally, it's crazy, but that's what makes me hopeful for how much are y'all adding. Like really, some of the small things. You know how Hades is. You get through and you get all the weapons and all the character stories kind of progress to a satisfying place. And then they start adding heats in the original Hades where you can add modifiers to make your game harder or change what you're getting from rewards from the gods and whatnot. And that's gonna add like 100 hours. Like I could just
Jeez.
live in the fucking game. Like that's how it was with Hades 1 for me. Like you can just kind
Dog,
of keep
I
playing
spent
this.
so much time on that shit that made no
Yeah.
damn sense.
Yeah, 100%. So that's Hades 2. Make sure you guys kind of go check it out. Play it on early access if it interests you because it's worth it. I'll tell you right now, it is definitely worth it. But the other game I want to talk about, oh, speaking of which, Hades 2 is actually on our fantasy draft, and I recently put up a tweet kind of detailing everything that's been happening. Nightingale got a negative score. That was our first negative.
Man,
Which is -10 on that one, which is tough.
next.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the next game as well, which was on our draft. But Hades 2 actually was up there, and I didn't think they were gonna get enough reviews, like score reviews, to make it, but they did. I checked today, and they actually got their 90. Yep, so that's 20 points for Carl right there. That's a nice little 20-point pickup, man.
Yeah, especially considering this shit's over a year out.
Yeah, 100%. So you got lucky on that one, man. I don't see it going down. If anything, I see it continuing to get high scores. So,
Right.
But the next game I want to talk about is actually also on our draft, and it's one that I drafted, which makes it infinitely more important. And that game is called Animal Well. We're going to talk about how this game just dropped out of nowhere and got like an 89 on Metacritic. And I love this moment where I'm like, I saw something in this fucking game. Like, I know that there's something special here. If it lives up to what the trailer looks like, which is a super atmospheric, simplistic, beautiful game with very little conversation and no combat, essentially, where you're just exploring. And weird shit happens every corner. Like, it's the weirdest fucking game that you'll ever play. You know what I mean? I've been playing this it is on PS Plus, or what is it? Extra is the second tier up. Yeah.
Extra.
It gets confusing. We were just talking about this, but yeah, you can try it out because it's definitely one of those games that, like, if the trailer doesn't immediately grab you, I still recommend kind of like jumping in if it gets you a little bit interested, because you never know what to expect. It's going to be kind of a slow grind. Basically, how it works is you're this little blob. You're wandering around this area. It's a well full of apex predators, is how I've heard it described. So you essentially just kind of pick a direction and go. Like, it's not a game where you can worry about getting lost or missing stuff. And from my experience, like, I may end up coming back to stuff because you don't really get many of your items early on, and there's only like 4 items, and they're household items. Stuff like one of them is a yo-yo. You saw it in the trailer for it. If you check that out, yeah. But it's like what you're doing in this game is wandering the world and finding out how that yo-yo interacts with things around you. Like, use it in front of a dog, and it might make the dog. You know what I mean? Like the dog.
This
might
is
jump out,
hilarious
like,
that a yo-yo is like a key.
I'm telling you, man, like one of them is
Gameplay.
like fireworks. I'm like, why would you give me fireworks? That's the one I got first. And I start wandering through this room, and there's this enemy that I can't, hit, can't attack. So I just drop the fireworks, and it like disperses the enemy. And that's a pretty simple, straightforward one. But when you start getting like, into what could you possibly use this yo-yo for? Like, how could this help me? But
Right.
maybe I'm very early on, but everything that I'm hearing is it's an experience of try it out, because if it works, it's going to be like a oh shit that worked moment. Like I had one room where there was this switch, and there were a few different blocks like placed, far apart at even intervals, and I couldn't jump on one without each separate switch. Like every other one was activated by the switch, so it would be like 2 blocks here, but there was one in between that was not activated unless I had the switch. That would turn the other 2 off, basically. And in between these blocks, there's this enemy just going back and forth, bouncing and whatnot. I'm turning off the switches, just kind of fucking around, and I trap the enemy in this room with another switch, and it turns out the enemy can hit the switch. And since it's going back and forth, it just starts hitting the switch, and they start alternating and turn the puzzle on, basically. And I'm just like, oh shit, I didn't think that was going to work like that, but it just kind of happened. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you stumble upon things like that, and it feels like a eureka every time. And I can already tell just
it's a sandbox, basically.
Yeah, basically, it's a Metroidvania with very little combat, basically. To where like your items do unlock more stuff. You spend a lot of time unlocking barriers to lock doors to go further, but it's not one of those games where you go into a room and you look around at, you do get a map. You can't see where you're at, but you're just gonna keep walking. Like you're gonna miss a door. You might, have to double back and come to something, but you just gotta kind of go and figure out what's gonna happen. And it's a special experience so far. I'm only like I'm very short way in, but I could tell that what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing kind of lines up to what I was anticipating early on.
All right, let's see how much this is for the regular niggas.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's like 22 right now, and it's 25 normally, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably on sale, like the first drop sale.
Maybe so, yeah.
Oh yeah, 22.49.
Yep. And so it's not bad. This is
Nah,
what you gotta love about indie renaissances.
Shit, if I had the bread right now, I'd get that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's definitely worth it. But this is that period where we kind of just jump in. Like last year, I feel like we had all the AAAs drop. So if this year can be that for indie games, that would be beautiful, especially since that's going to be a lot of games you might not have heard of. Like that's going to be stuff coming out of the blue, just knocking your socks off with a cool ass idea. And it's not going to be because it looks so good. It's going to be just because it's fucking fun. So
yeah, and
I'll take
also
that.
because Microsoft don't know how to act right now.
We got to talk about that as well. So I'm glad we took this episode to kind of talk about what we're playing. I also want to tap into what's been going on in the industry a little bit because we haven't been able to do that in a little while. We've been doing a lot of themed episodes and stuff like that, and talking about beef and shit. So let's talk first about
It's just a
Microsoft.
different type of beef.
Yes, but Microsoft, if you haven't heard, has shut down a litany of studios recently. Um, the one that I want to hone in on, but there's been a few, and I'm first of all, my heart goes out to everyone who's affected by these layoffs. That's always a heartbreaking story. Like I hate to hear that anybody lost their livelihood so that another corporation could save a dollar, basically. But that's what it is. Like at this point, the layoffs this year have been crazy. And the one that I want to hone in on is Tango DreamWorks, which is the one that everybody's talking about. Tango DreamWorks, the studio behind The Evil Within, put out Hi-Fi Rush last January, if I'm not mistaken. Surprise drop. Nobody expected it. Smash hit. Everyone's talking about how great it is. Microsoft finally has a platformer. This has not been their bag. They tried it with Blinks the Timekeeper. Like, that's the last time I remember them trying this shit. And then they
Fuck
just
that
stumbled.
game.
Honestly, we already know that game was a meme, but it's fine. They tried it. I respect them for trying. But this one worked. And this one kind of just came out of nowhere. It was a studio they acquired under Bethesda. And now they've shut it down after probably, I'm going to say it's probably their most successful game. I can't tell you what the metrics look like, but I know it was a successful game. I know that this game, from the words of Microsoft execs, surpassed every metric that they were looking at. Like it was a success in every way. And now they're gone. I don't understand.
An undisputed success. There was no way they could have spun it if they wanted to. They could have spun it to say, well, it didn't do what we expected. You didn't expect shit.
Right.
And it did everything.
Exactly. So
like we're at the point now where if you're looking into getting into game development, what is your incentive? Like if your game doesn't do great, you lose your job. If your game does amazing, you lose your job. If your game doesn't even come out, you lose your job. Like there's no winning.
It's you got to get into it for the love of the game, which is always bullshit. That's always what you tell people so that they work for less than they deserve and are compromised the whole time. Like people are looking at Hellblade 2, which is about to drop soon, and thinking they're worried because if that game, it doesn't matter how good it is, or even if it sells well, if it doesn't meet in whatever imaginary metric that they needed to excuse the studio's existence, then it might be wiped off the planet out of nowhere after Microsoft bullshitted around in circles, telling us
Hellblade
how
is digital only, ain't it?
Yeah, and it's like
they could literally wipe that bitch like fucking WB.
Yeah, straight up, like it's not okay. Like it's not the way this is supposed to go. These are studios making art, and I've been saying it recently. I'm sure I'll set it on content, but this is not going to be able to continue. Like we're not going to be able to sustain. Like last year was an anomaly, and it will definitely be looked back on as this incredibly like one-off event. Like, you know, this is gonna be one of the best years ever because we can't afford to do that shit. We couldn't afford it last year, probably, and that's why you're
Yeah,
seeing
they
all these
couldn't
people.
afford it. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
we had
like
all those great games and people were still getting laid off damn near every month.
exactly. Like, and they're selling, like they're selling. It's not that these aren't success stories, but I could talk at length about this, man. Like, my heart goes out to everybody affected, but it's gonna ruin the industry. It's gonna take all of the things that we enjoy away. This is the problem with consolidation. This is the problem when you start to open up studios and then suddenly you don't have the money to let those studios run how they were running already. Like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
And I think that, I mean, you look at Microsoft spent what, 70 billion on Activision?
Yeah.
They basically spent 70 billion on Call of Duty because they weren't interested in Sekiro. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's not what they wanted. They
And
spent
they
70
probably weren't
billion on
getting
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And closed 4 studios. Like, put some of that money. Like, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
then
They
it's
want to.
hard to look at like we talk about the console wars and shit, and then people pick their sides. But I mean, with the exception of Bungie, like PlayStation ain't really done nothing crazy. And now you got rumors that some of the folks at Deviation who were laid off not too long ago have formed a new studio under Sony with the PlayStation brand. And it's like, okay, so what are they doing that everyone else doesn't seem to be doing? Because
It's really Nintendo that we need to look at too, because Nintendo will
yeah,
come out
yeah,
and say, you know, we keep our people on and we pay them well and we'll take pay cuts at the top. Not that it's always
everybody,
happening, but yeah,
everybody at the top
man,
taking less money.
and it
What
is
they
what it
say
is.
when Mario Wonder dropped, there was 5 people on that worked on the original Super Mario Brothers. That's
Unbelievable.
insane.
It's unbelievable. It's 30 plus years ago. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's actually almost 40 years ago, probably over 40.
Yeah.
So what can you really say? Like, we need
There's
to,
clearly no excuse. That's kind of the point.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
clearly no excuse other than you motherfuckers are greedy.
and we need to shrink this
Because
down. You know,
Nintendo ain't making Microsoft money.
facts.
They make good money, but they ain't making Microsoft money. And yet everybody at the top over there going, nah, I'll take $5,000-$10,000 less, whatever.
Why? How difficult is it? I mean, it's. I know that that's an unreasonable ask for some of these people. Like, you know
No, it's
what I
not.
mean? Like,
No, it's not.
it's not unreasonable, but it's an unrealistic ask.
It's
Let me
yeah,
say it that way. Yeah,
it's unrealistic if you're an asshole.
yeah, yeah.
Like
That's
for
what
real. What's
I'm. Yeah.
the actual difference between 100,000 and 90,000 besides 10,000? Like, what is the actual? You're not missing that.
Nope.
Or
But
if you at the top making 200,000, okay, so I got to drop down to 175. How
this
that
is what
hurt
they
your
say,
pockets
man.
unless you living like an asshole?
Once you get to a certain level of wealth, you just continue wanting more wealth. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the thing. Like, I don't want to get too deep into the philosophical implications of this. That was
Yeah,
very
shout out
difficult
to
to
Robin Williams genie.
Facts.
We'll take it Disney with it.
Yeah, yeah, we'll relax on that. But you know, this is corporate greed. It is what it is. Um, and we need to nip that in the bud now. It's unacceptable. We need to hold these companies accountable. I'm glad that the feet are over the fire to where that they had to respond to these claims. But I don't even want
Oh, the
to waste your
response was
time. Yeah,
whack as fuck.
I don't even want to waste your time with the response. Like,
So
it's
the
just
worst part is that we were like really happy that Sarah Bond got a job with Microsoft and was like running shit.
yeah,
This is what happened with Sarah Bond, and I'm just speculating because this is kind of how this works. You see it in sports all the time. When the black coach gets a really shitty job,
mhm,
like in football, they take over the
mhm.
1-15 team, and they're only expected to really win 3 games. And then you get that really high draft pick. You bring in the great quarterback, fire his black ass, and get the white guy in there. That's pretty much what's going to happen to her. I would have to guess. They gave this
Absolutely.
shit to her right before everything went to hell. They're gonna blame her, and they're gonna give it to some white dude.
And we're gonna keep our fingers crossed that that
I
is
hope
not
it
the
doesn't.
case. Yeah, like
But man,
I
I've
hope.
seen too much.
And here's the thing, man. If you're someone from Microsoft, like on the off chance someone from Microsoft happened to see this and that offends them, understand that it's coming from the place of your integrity is now compromised. You came out, like the company came out and said one thing about this game and the way that they're moving as far as these acquisitions, and they've done it the opposite. Somebody brought up the fact that they did the same thing when it came to Bethesda games being exclusive. Not that I'm tripping about exclusivity, but don't come out and speak to the fact that you're not trying to take games away from more players. Like, you said that and then you did it. Like, yeah, I get why you
Yeah.
did it, but stop bullshit. Stop with the corporate bullshit. Like,
just say what you mean.
yeah, it's over. And
That's it.
make moves. If you, I mean, it's just, I know that they can't say what they mean, because if they said what they mean right now, they say, hey man, we're not trying to lose this money. We're gonna let a bunch of these people go. Y'all favorite game is not getting a sequel. My bad. Like, it is what it is. So to some degree, you're gonna have to just accept that that's what these companies are. We're expecting the best from the worst, So
and that's the thing you should never do. Don't expect good things from terrible people.
yeah.
We absolutely hope Sarah Bond keeps her job. It's just way
100%.
too much evidence throughout corporate history, sports history, all of that other shit to suggest anything other than that.
It's an indictment on the system, and that's what it is. You can't pinpoint. You can come to the defense of whoever you want to, but until things change within the system, that this is how this goes. You know what I mean? So yeah, let's I want to take it from that dim, dark news to talk about the last thing I want to touch on, which I feel like is a positive story. One
Somewhat.
that I appreciate. Yeah, we won't say positive, but I like the way it was framed. So if you haven't heard, Nintendo recently made a statement straight from their president. Actually, you know what? I should pull that up real quick. So let me find.
Go ahead, read that thing verbatim,
because I want to. Yeah,
we want to make sure is interesting.
It's essentially announcing their plans when it comes to the Nintendo Switch successor, and what they're going to be saying this year versus what's coming, within the next, what they say, the next fiscal year. While I look it up to make sure I get it verbatim.
Which I think basically means we're not going to see it until after April next year.
Right.
Like, when I say see it, I mean it gets released.
Right. Well, yeah, probably. Since the announcement.
I think they'll announce it in February.
Yeah, I can see that. Since basically what they've announced is that they're not saying anything about it, but they are having a presentation next month about what's coming next for the Switch. So that means there's stuff coming next to the Switch. Like, you got a little time to kind of keep riding off the Switch high.
Metroid Prime 4.
That's I would love it to be true.
It's been 7 years. Like,
it's hard for me to not.
It was a 7 years. No,
dude, I can't even tell you at this point. I got
that shit's still pre-ordered on Amazon.
Yeah, like that's crazy. You're never getting charged. You're gonna forget all about that shit, and it's just gonna pop out of your account. It's gonna be.
I forgot until this announcement.
Yeah. So
I just went and looked.
I still believe that someone out there is working on Metroid Prime 4 and believes that it is coming out. I don't know how many people it is. Maybe it's 2 people. Maybe it's a whole team of people actively in development. Or maybe just a couple people making concepts, art, and starting over. Like, maybe it's someone drafting a story of, like, where do we go from this? Like, who knows? But I think someone out there thinks that this thing can actually happen. Or they would need to come out and let us know.
Metroid Prime Remaster sold 1 million copies as a shadow drop. Why are we still fumbling here?
What's going on?
What are we doing?
They're gonna be so shocked, man. Like, look at how every other game that dropped on the Switch was like the best-selling game on the Switch. Now, or best-selling game in this franchise, essentially. For the most part, I want to say. Now, that brings up an interesting quandary. Because now we need to open up this conversation again. Do you hear me out? Hear me out. Before I can get to hear me out, you said no. Give me a second. Listen, do you drop Metroid Prime 4 on the Switch this holiday as the Switch's final game, final swan song, big release? Oh, they have one more in them. That's the not like us moment. And then you can actually basically re-release it with maybe some extra content.
No,
for the next time. You don't think so? Like,
no.
A couple months later.
Look, man, we just got done shitting on corporate greed. We always talk about how much Nintendo hates its fans. That's the worst thing they could possibly do, is make us hang for 8 years, drop it at the end of the console's life cycle on a dying console graphically, and then go, we're gonna give it to you again on the next one and probably upcharge you like $10.
So in that case, do you think that this game should be playable? It should be exclusive to the next Switch. No yes. Switch. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I mean, that's something I've always hated going from console generation to console generation, is that, like, we gotta run one back. No, man, we're on to the next one. I get you want people on the other one to play it, but you compromise the game to an extent.
My argument is that this is Nintendo we're talking about, where how much worse were the two Zelda games that did this? Like, this is definitely going to be on that tier, you know?
Oh, Twilight Princess on the Wii was superior. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, sure, but I played it on GameCube and I didn't feel like I got a bad experience.
No, you're not going to get a bad experience or a worse experience, but like
That's what
you
I'm
can
saying.
tell
Like,
which one's the better experience.
yeah, and that's how it should be. Like, if it's not going to be bad on the Switch, but you can tell which one's better, is that really such a compromise? We know that the Switch 2,
It is if you know how these game developers or not these game companies work. They're going to upcharge it coming
they
into the
are
next one.
just a little bit. You gotta add something. Please, not costumes and shit. But
That's what's going to happen. We're going to get some extra skin. When you see Nintendo, like they really just leaned into the concept of DLC this generation.
yeah, yeah. But I like to think that they learned from that. Like that's a sign of the times.
No, man, no, you're still begging for Mother 3. And we know they
Yeah,
can give it to us.
yeah, but they're not. But
There's
that's
nothing holding them back.
something is in the air there. Something is up with that game that they don't want to do that. Like I don't feel like that's just a straight up. We're not doing it.
I mean, it's
Like
probably down to like legalities as far as references and shit, and
in a year where we got a remake of Super Mario RPG and the Thousand Year Door, I'm not complaining about Nintendo not giving the fans what they want right now. Like they're going crazy right now. So
I'm saying this might be the thing. Okay, they gonna soften you up for the gut punch. They doing all of that stuff, and you're gonna go, oh my god, Nintendo finally cares about us. And then they're gonna do exactly what you just did. They're gonna drop Metroid Prime 4 for 40 on the Switch, and then drop it for 70 on the Switch too, and everybody gonna be mad again.
my big takeaway there would be, damn, $40 is crazy. But
See.
nah, but
I ain't going.
I get that. I get what you're saying. I think the more likely scenario is that it does drop on the next Switch. And then it's not playable on the current Switch. I'm curious about Pokemon Legends Z or
I,
ZA or whatever.
I think they'll double up on that one.
Yeah, that's gonna be that could be the one that gets doubled up on because
Yeah,
something is gonna bleed over and
they're gonna
make the transition
yeah
easy, you know.
they're gonna have to double up somewhere. But I think you need a flagship game for your
That's
new
true.
console that is only on the new console.
I know but it's gotta be Mario though. Like that is Mario has to be coming, like to some
I mean, you
degree.
would think, but we would have heard something by now.
Maybe I mean next month we
Yeah,
could.
yeah, it's possible next month.
That's
Maybe they drop a little tag at the end of.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's the other thing. We don't usually get the announcement that they're gonna come to do something next month, like in June. They usually just like have us sitting here wondering if it's gonna be June 3rd or June
So
15th, you know.
did they say? Did they say they were highlighting games for the rest of 2024? Did they say highlighting games for the rest of the fiscal year? Because that's a big difference.
I'm not sure. I'm kind of abandoned looking for the tweet, but let me see if I can find that because I mean
Yeah,
that would have some implications.
that would make us. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it's the rest of the fiscal year, you can kind of sneak something in and go, "Hey, in 2025, we're giving you this." It don't have to
Yeah,
say it's Switch 2, but you can say we're giving you this.
yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like either way. Well, that does make a difference. I won't lie. I won't lie. Hold on. Give me one. Okay, so I found it. So I'm gonna read this tweet word for word exactly how they put it. As soon as my goddamn computer loads. So this is Furukawa, president of Nintendo. We will make an announcement about the successor to the Nintendo Switch within this fiscal year. It will have been over 9 years since we announced the evidence of the existence of Nintendo Switch back in March 2015. We will be holding a Nintendo Direct this June regarding the Nintendo Switch software lineup for the latter half of fall 2024. So yeah, it's for this year. Please be
Okay,
aware
so
that
Switch
there'll be no
lineup is
mention.
this year,
Yeah.
and fiscal year 2024 is the Switch. Okay, so yeah, February.
So yeah, we
Yeah,
pretty
I
much
would bet on that. Yeah.
yeah, I can see it. I can see it. They like to do maybe even March because March was the Switch, you know. So why not like get close to the Switch anniversary, you know? That's the other thing. People are pointing out the fact that they specifically said that it would be accurate to call this Switch version 2. So this is like in the Switch line. This is going to continue that Switch lineage, you know?
They can't go away from it. I mean,
Yeah.
I miss having a box from Nintendo, but they can't go away from this.
Yeah,
It's
it is
just
what it is.
they've locked in. You can leave the DS in the past, you can leave the Game Boy in the like this was the thing. This was where they were always trying to get.
Yep, 100%. It's the perfect blend between like fun toy and premium console experience. It is the perfect blend. It's their best console, and I'm willing to stand on that right there for sure.
Yeah.
because they did a lot with this. But man, I want to hear what you guys think. Do you feel like we will get the Switch within like that early next year time period? Do you think they're going to announce it for the end of next year? How are you feeling about all this Microsoft stuff? Definitely let us know. Leave a comment below. We want to hear from you guys. And if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe to the video because we definitely would love that feedback. 5 stars on those podcast services will mean a lot to us as well. Want to continue to make this a great show for you guys. So until next time, man, I'm Kendall. This is Tony, and make sure you guys keep gaming.
And fuck carrots.
Hey, run for your life.
Agreed.
Hey, run for your life. Freaky ass nigga, he the 69 God. Freaky ass nigga, he the 69 God. Hey, run for your life. Hey, run for your life. Let me hear you say OV-ho. Say OV-ho. Then step this way, step that way. Then step this way, step that way. Are you my friend? Are we locked in? Then step this way.